shift a little bit. We have a little bit of Chuck's viewpoint thrown in there, and then a little bit of my own personal study of things that I was looking at. Okay, now I was listening to this young guy on the End of Age Ministries that they are basically post-trib viewpoint ministry. So he was basically stating that in 7:4, okay, let's go back and read 7:4 a minute to regain where we're at here. Okay, and I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel were sealed. Okay, in 7:4, John hears the numbers of the tribes. Then in 7:9, after these things, John sees a great multitude, no man can number. So he's saying he hears the number of these tribes, but he doesn't actually see them. He hears their number. And then we get to chapter 9, and then he sees this great multitude. And he basically likens that to, there is an explanation in post-tribulation view, which I have a post-trib view, but I don't know that I don't think I agree with this explanation. It's interesting, but they have an explanation that the 144,000, they look at it as more symbolic, and they give an explanation as to why and how they bring this about. And then that we get to, after these things, I looked, and behold, a great multitude, which no one could number. And basically it's the church being presented there. And they see this 144,000 as this great multitude, but then it says that no one man can number. Well, there's various different reasons they see that, because in Revelation 14 they see the different attributes with the name of the Father written on their foreheads. So let's go to 14 so we can understand their view on this. And then I looked, and behold, a lamb standing on Mount Zion. Okay, now we have the lamb standing on Mount Zion pictured, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder. And I heard the sound of the harpists playing their harps. They sang, as it were, the song before the throne, before the four living creatures and the elders, and no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. So this is one of the reasons. They are redeemed from, okay, it's the Lamb standing in their midst. So there, it's this picture of Jesus standing in the midst, and oftentimes you see Jesus pictured standing in the midst of the church. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some good reasons why they think this, but they are redeemed from the, and this is specifically talking about the 144,000 in 14. It doesn't, not the multitude of multitudes, but they're making the connection here. So in 14, if the tribes are the 144,000, they're connecting it with the redeemed, okay, that are being listed here with the Lamb standing in the midst. And they're redeemed from the earth. Okay, and as we continue to read, these are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men. They are not defiled with women, and I have a cross-reference there. Well, let's just go to that real quick. 2 Corinthians 11:2. It says, for I am jealous for you with godly jealousy, for I have betrothed you to one husband, that I might present you as a chaste virgin to Christ. So he is likening that. Paul is basically saying to the Corinthian church, let's back it up to verse 1. Oh, that you would bear with me in a little folly, and indeed you do bear with me, for I am jealous for you with godly jealousy, Paul is saying to them. For I have betrothed you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ. I think that's actually Christ. That I think you actually need to back up into into chapter 10 to get that. I think that's actually Christ speaking here. But anyway, so they're seeing this passage that the church is the virgin. It's not necessarily that the individuals haven't been with a woman, but that in Christ we are made clean. We have become a chaste virgin. So they're kind of likening that scripture, and that's where they get that. Okay. Then it says, these ones, these are the ones who follow the Lamb. Well, who follows the Lamb? The church follows the Lamb. So there's some good points they have here. No deceit is in their mouth. Okay, I looked up Psalms 32, 1 through 2, because I was trying to get some references to that. Psalms 32, 1 and 2. Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man to whom the Lord does not impute iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no deceit. Again, he's talking about the Lord. Blessed is the man who the Lord does not impute iniquity, and there is in whom there is no deceit. So here, it says in Revelation, no deceit is in their mouth. Okay. Ephesians 5. Let's see. Ephesians 5:25 through 27 is another reference I have here for that. Therefore, just as the church is subject to Christ, I'm backing to 24. So let the wives be subject to their own husbands and everything. Okay. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word, that he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. So that's some strong, those are some strong references for that point of view there. Okay, and then it says they are without fault, so that includes kind of what we just read. And then the harpist who sang a new song, it says to verse 2, then I heard from a voice from heaven, like a loud voice, many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. They sang, as it were, a new song before the throne, before the four living creatures, and before the elders. Okay, so these harpists are singing a new song before the throne, the creatures, and the elders. No one could learn that song except the 144,000. So the question is, are the harpists playing the song for the 144,000 who are singing it, or are the harpists part of the 144,000 that are singing it? So I think that I don't know. Basically, I just cross-reference that with Revelation 5:8, where we see harps. Yeah. These are all just things to ponder. Revelation 5:8 says,
that's talking about the 24 elders.
And now when he had taken the scroll, the four living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp.
Each one had a harp.
And gold bowls. Now this is interesting because they sang before the four living creatures and the elders, but the elders and all these are found having the harps in chapter 5. So maybe they're playing the harps, and the 144,000 are the ones who are singing the song. But maybe it's the living creatures and the elders and who are actually playing the harps. But that's just something to think about. I have no, major theological breakthrough on that. It's just something I found interesting. So okay. It's just trying to discern and interpret these things. Another instance where they calculate that number in Revelation 21 it's in Revelation 21. And it's where it's the New Jerusalem. I guess, there's 12 gates. Okay, there's 12 tribes, there's 12 gates, and there's 12 tribes. And so they talked about the 12 gates, because New Jerusalem is square, a cubic square, and it talked about the gates representing the tribes. 12,000 times 12 is 140. So we see basically that number with the gates in the new city of Jerusalem. And in Revelation 21, it calls the New Jerusalem his bride. So it coming adorned as his bride, prepared for, So the bride is depicted as the chaste virgin in 2 Corinthians 11:2, which we just read. Okay, so they conclude that the 144,000 is the church. So that's where they get that it is not actually the Jews, but it's actually the church. I see their points that they're making, but I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. And partly because I see them distinctly listed there. I see the first group as specific. The 144,000 whose tribes are specifically mentioned and named. And yet you see then this group coming after them, after these things I saw. Then you see from every tribe, every time, every name, and then these are the redeemed. I don't know. It's just this is interesting because they make some good points here. And yet I still believe that God has a plan and a purpose for Israel.
And the remnant.
And he has a plan for all of the redeemed, as a whole. God has a way of bringing unity to all these things, I think, and a oneness to it all. But anyway, there's some interesting things with that.
Well, and I don't think that God's covenant that he made with Abraham ended when Christ died. We have a new covenant.
Yes.
But I don't think that God ended his covenant with Abraham at that point. I think that the Jews are
He talked about it being forever,
his chosen ones. And I think that, then they were dispersed all over.
Right.
Who knows who the descendants of these tribes. I mean, we could be descendants of those tribes. We don't know. And but I think what's important here is the ones, they're sealed.
Yes.
They did not take the mark of the beast.
Right.
They have the mark of God upon them.
Right.
And that's what's important. That's what distinguishes them.
Yes, absolutely.
It's that sealing.
Absolutely. And I'm just, again, looking at the different sides of this. But the covenant that God made with Abraham is forever. And yet within that covenant, he provided the lamb. In other words, the bloodline came from Abraham through Jacob through and on down the line, and it brought us Jesus, who then established a new covenant. But it doesn't remove the old covenant; he fulfilled it. So again, I see how it all sort of ties together, and yet there's a specific number, and so it's like there is a plan for the nation of Israel, because we can see, for example, Israel became a nation again in 1948.
The reestablishment
of, and we see these prophecies being fulfilled that are specific to Israel.
Right.
So I think God still has prophecies specific to Israel, the country of Israel, and a remnant of Israel, and it talks about things about them, reestablishing the temple and the things that are so.
Look at how many generations have passed away, though, since the nations of Israel were established, since the 12 tribes were established. Right. Think of how many generations have gone since then.
Right. And there's even more things of interest here coming within this. So just let me know, do you want to take a break real quick? Okay, let's take a break here. It's a good place to do it.
There's a city